How hard did you push it? Till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, MuniciPals? This is Big Chris and Ashton. Back to the basics this week. We are talking courses that we've played, what's been going on. We've had a lot of guests on recently, and I know me and Ashton were just talking, and I think we're really stoked to finally get back to the basics and talk about some awesome new tracks we've played.
Yes, sir. It's good to talk to you, man. I mean, to your point, it's been a bit of a heater, very honestly. I mean, with all these guests on, and kudos to you for doing a lot of the coordination, and Jack for a lot of the production. But to your point, I think it's always nice to be able to sit down and talk to you, especially because just with what you've been up to, I legitimately lose track of how many courses you've played. To bury the lead to the listeners, he's played a lot of them. And then for me, I've been trying to have a more steady diet of Presidio and Harding, and not that I care about my handicap, but as you've taught me, Chris, it's really hard to play well or shoot good scores when you're constantly going to courses that you don't know. You have no local knowledge. You don't know what the green complexes look like. But this weekend, I finally got down to, we'll talk about this, but Monterey, and played two new tracks. Two very, very, very different courses, both in conditioning and where they're located. So it felt really good to kind of get back to our roots with some public golf and be able to kind of highlight some of these courses, both in, the Bay Area. Well, I guess you can't really, Monterey's not exactly the Bay Area, but the Bay Area-ish, a place that people want to go. And I know you've just been whipping that Prius around, driving around, doing all kinds of things to get all over Oregon, huh?
Yeah, I've talked about some of them in the last few pods that we've gone out and played, but in the last 2 weeks I've probably played 6 new courses. So I've been all over the place. I met my dad halfway. So great thing now living back in Portland. My parents live near Olympia or Washington, which is closer to Seattle. They live in a place called Lacey. And so there's a 3 golf courses kind of in the middle of us. We've got Tri-Mountain, I think it's called 3 Rivers, and Mint Valley. And so out of those courses, me and my dad kind of rotate through them and play different ones. We meet up halfway. But I would say Mint Valley has got to be my favorite course that's out of the trio. I would say Tri-Mountain's probably the newest and nicest, but the layout of Mint Valley is super, super weird. Super weird. So on the front 9, the first 3 holes are pretty basic, laid out, no big issues. But then you get onto the 4th, 5th, 6th hole, and they're really, really tight, running along this walking trail that's up on this hillside that runs along all the 3 of those holes, and it's just super challenging. You might have 15 yards of width between that hillside and the trees on the right side, so it's just this narrow little area, and they're short par 4s, which is super fun. 200, and I think one's 260, one's 280, the other one's maybe 250. And so really short, but you can either take it over the corner and bang a driver, but you got to be extraordinarily accurate and be able to hit a left to right, or you can lay up, and have a nice little, 90, 100-yard shot in. But they're really, really fun. It's a fun course. I can't say anything bad about it. The great thing about Mint Valley is probably the rate to the conditions. So the rate is, I think me and my dad got out there. We got a little Golf Now deal. We got out there for $17.99. So $18 walking.
It's not even $1 a hole.
No, not even $1 a hole. So you can, if you hunt down some rates, their normal rate is $30. So it's not even bad if you're just walking on, playing. I think it's it gets up to the $50 rate, $45 rate on the weekends. But it's really, really inexpensive if you can get out there on the weekdays. The issue is it's in Longview, Kelso area, and it's kind of a lost little area between Seattle and Portland. So unless you're driving through it, it's not something people are going to drive up to from Portland a lot. It's 45 minutes to an hour. So it's a little bit of a drive, but totally worth it because the conditions of the course for what you pay are really, really good. I mean, the greens, that's why I go there out of the 3 courses, because I think the green complexes out there are probably some of the best in out of the 3, and probably top 10 between Portland and Seattle that I've played. So for the rate you get, the conditions, the green complexes, I mean, you really can't beat it. It's the best bang for your buck you're gonna get. I really, really love Mint Valley, and they're usually always, on time. So they always have a starter out there, no matter if it's weekday or weekend. The people inside the clubhouse really keep it moving. I've never really had issues out there at all. I think me and my dad played in 3 hours and 45 minutes. So, and that's really, really good. And we played on a Sunday.
That's great. I mean, I think to be able to play, because that's the big thing we've talked about is I think whether you're trying to, grind out and hit cups or play with buddies, the difference between 3 hours and 45 minutes and 5 hours for your mental sanity, it's everything. And I think that that's something that people don't think enough about, price sometimes is just being able to go and get along with your day. So that feels like a really good piece. I'm curious, Chris, might be making an incorrect assumption. What were the amenities like? Because, at $17.99, I'm thinking it's probably a couple hot dogs and a Snickers bar, and that's totally cool. Was there anything about the amenities that stood out to you, or just kind of a very typical golf course?
Very typical muni. So you got burgers, hot dogs, club sandwich. I mean, chicken strips, fries, your basic, bar and grill. You can get, mixed drinks and beer, which is really nice. So they have a full stocked pro shop as well, which is great. So, you forget your balls or you need to re-up on tees, replace your spikes on your shoes, whatever you need to do when you show up at the course, they can handle it there. So I think they even have a full shop in there that does grips and fixes clubs and stuff. So really, their amenities are what you're gonna get for a $30 rate course. And you know what, nothing, like you said, nothing wrong with that.
Chris, did you happen to have a favorite hole at Mint Valley?
Favorite hole would probably be the 5th hole. So it's a dog leg right around the corner. Like I said, very narrow, tight hole. If you blow it long, you're up over this walking trail and you might hit a pedestrian and you'll go right into this river that they have on the other side of the walking trail. Or you can bomb the corner, but the trees are pretty heavily grown in, so you really have to be able to hit a high driver to get over there. I've seen some people hit 3 woods over the corner and be able to take it and land just short of the green. But it's a tough little hole. But if you play it right, it's an easy birdie. For me, it's a 6-iron to the middle, pitching wedge, 50 degree, onto the green, and then you've got a nice little birdie try. So if you play it correctly, it's a very, very fun hole. But I mean, you could also be a degenerate and fucking hit the corner and take it for a ride. So it's a fun hole because it gives you different options, and I always love a good option on a short par 4.
Yeah, dude, for sure. And I think that's a really good segue to, even though I played this second yesterday, no one really cares about that. But I want to talk a little bit about Pacific Grove, or as it's kind of known, PG or PG Links, which, I mean, I'm super late to the party here. I feel like everybody in the Bay Area, especially you, has played here a bunch. But the reason what you said reminded me is, if you want to think about it for people who've never played there before, I believe it's 5,700 yards from the back. So, I mean, there's a couple par 5s where they're like real par 5s, but when you just said that, I thought about number 10 at Pacific Grove, where I think I hit like 3 hybrid and then wedge. There was a lot of like hybrid wedge in there. Much more about kind of accuracy than it is about distance, but also really fun. I think a really nice juxtaposition. So for Pacific Grove, again, I think this is kind of what it's known for. It's known as Poor Man's Pebble. We played at 408, which I think was categorized as Twilight, but we paid $36 to walk, which, especially with the back nine, which is, out on the sand dunes, out in the Pacific Ocean, some of the best views you'll ever see. I think that PG probably has to, pound for pound, be potentially the best value for what you're getting. The front nine is not great. It's not very interesting. It's not very cool. There's like deers shitting on the green, which is, again, fine. It's a muni. But I think the back nine, pound for pound, just the views of the ocean and the lighthouse, which is kind of their iconic logo. And after Bandit, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like a veteran. I'm no Marcus Chang, but it's like shit, playing golf in the dunes. Like, it feels kind of very centering after our wonderful experience at Bandon. So again, $36. Can't beat it. Super walkable. Also, shockingly, had very nice golf carts. You don't need to, but if you choose to go that route, I kind of expected the Sharp Park gas golf cart, no roof vibe, and that was not it. They had very nice golf carts. But yeah, so I think as far as greens and conditioning, fairways were great. Conditions for the greens were, I think Marcus called this, he called it Bumpy Poana, which I then proceeded to say that Marcus's stripper name was Bumpy Po, which he seemed to like a lot. Marcus Chang shaking it for ones at the Coos Bay Strip Club, which, go back and listen to Marcus talk about his Coos trip if you want to hear about that story. To be clear, Marcus was not stripping. Marcus didn't even go, but again, go listen to that pod, shameless plug. The greens were great though. I mean, a little bit bumpy for Poana, but that's literally what Poana does. That happens at every time there's Poana. Like, that's unavoidable. The other thing to note though about the course is super small greens. Like, number 1 is a par 3, which is awesome, and number 1 and number 2 are actually both par 3s. Like, I missed the green. It's like, oh, this green is actually quite tiny. But again, for like my buddy Nick, I sent him the picture and he goes, "How are the greens?" And I said, better than you'd expect for a $36 golf course, to be honest. So really good there. Again, layout, front nine, very Parkland. I think on number 6, the par 5, you get like a little view of the ocean, but I think one of the things that I'm just going to say it's charming is they put up like baseball nets to prevent the houses from getting hit. And then they put up these like really like these like slanted things, which Marcus actually hit to prevent his ball from going into the houses. So it's like you're seeing the ocean, but then like there's this gigantic net preventing balls from getting hit. So I hate the word vibe because I think it gets overused when you're talking about golf courses, but PG is just a vibe because the front nine, again, super forgettable. If the 18 holes is like that, you probably wouldn't go play there very often. But then on the back nine, again, playing amongst the dunes, like legitimately I'd call it a schizophrenic golf course, like 2 personalities, like very, very different. Again, I would love to play the back nine twice, but there's nothing wrong with the front nine. It just kind of coasts you into kind of the back nine that is.
So I have to ask, your favorite hole PG?
11. I mean, I know that's sort of a cop-out because for context, that's really the first time you see the ocean. Very similar to, I believe, number 4 at Bandon, right? Where it's like you got these couple holes amongst the dunes, then you turn the corner at Bandon on number 4, right, Chris? Or is it 4 or 5? I think it's 4. And then all of a sudden the ocean opens up. It's the same way where, on number 10, this short par 4, you definitely see the dunes, and then you kind of walk through this little area. I think we post that on social media here, but you kind of walk through this area, and then basically it kind of opens up to the Pacific Ocean. And then the second shot, you had a good drive. I think I hit hybrid off the tee, but then you have kind of a blind shot over a dune. Again, very a la Abandoned Dunes, very kind of like, that kind of Scotland vibe. Got to see the vibe. I'll put my dollar in the cookie jar there for saying that. But really, really loved number 11. The only thing to comment on pace, not as much pace, it's more decorum. The thing that was interesting, because of the price point, I don't know, Chris, you could maybe workshop with this to me. I don't know if it's price point or something. there was a lot of people out there who clearly weren't golfers. Like the people ahead of us were pretty slow. Like, they were, and I give PG credit. They've done certain things that are, in my opinion, completely ridiculous. Like on the par fives, you blow it into the other fairway and they tell you to drop it in the middle of your own fairway. Like you go get the ball and drop it in the middle of your fairway, I guess for pace of play. So the people ahead of us were like pretty slow, even though we played in under 4 hours. And then we had these kids behind us who were all doing like slides in their golf carts. We're not driving on the greens. They hit into us 4 times, like to the point where like we were having to yell at them to stop hitting because the balls were flying past us in the fairway. And we were going to talk to them, but Marcus is a teacher, and Marcus was like, those kids weren't going to stop doing that, So it was weird where it's like, it was amazing, a really fun day. It was like the people ahead of us were just like pretty brutally slow, and the kids behind us are just like, almost driving on the greens and like nuking balls into us, like to the point where it's like we were trying to move quickly over like that one blind tee shot. I was like, guys, the balls are going to start flying in. So again, that's not a reason not to go, but definitely a place where it's like you're getting all sorts at PG,
So PG for me is kind of the tourist trap of golf in Monterey. So because Pebble Beach Resort is so expensive to play, you can experience now with the hay, which is great. If you want to experience some sort of Pebble Beach, there is I guess you'd consider it affordable for Pebble Beach Resort. I guess it's affordable in my mind for a short par 3 course. It's outrageous, but that's for another pod. But for anybody visiting Monterey and wants to experience the golf in Monterey, PG is kind of the go-to because it, like you said, the rate is really reasonable. They do rental clubs. You can literally come out to Monterey with nothing, show up to PG, and they'll set you up to go out and play. So that's what I've experienced out at PG. Is it's just there's a lot of tourists or people from out of town or new people to the game that want to experience oceanfront golf, and so it does slow down pace of play. I've had 5-hour rounds at PG, which is just really brutal because the course is so short.
I'll say 5,700 yards. You have to be trying to. I mean, it's crazy. That's crazy.
And so,
but I guess
it goes
that's
back
what
to
I've
the
heard. Like even
tourists.
Pebble's like a 7-hour round apparently. I guess it's similar, but for the common man, right?
You got it. And so it's a lot of tourists taking pictures, and when you get to the back nine, it's very picturesque, and it's hard not to keep your phone out the entire time. The first time I played it, I'd say I took good 15 pictures of everything I could on the back nine. So I would say that's what slows it down really, is you've got a lot of tourists out there, a lot of people that aren't necessarily, hardcore golfers, where you're going to get them at Bayonet, Black Horse. And I think, in some of the other courses out there, which you got to go experience Bayonet for the first time, which is one of my favorite courses out in Monterey.
I did. The one thing before we go there, and actually I want to jump over to you so people don't have to hear my stupid voice for 10 straight minutes, but I also wanted to call out PG's Grill. I had a fantastic margarita there. Kudos to producer Jack for suggesting that. Fantastic. The grill had closed by the time we got there. You're gonna make a weird face when I say this, and the listeners are gonna go, what the hell? They had a leftover veggie breakfast burrito from the morning that the lady's like, I can reheat that for you. I was like, yeah, sure. She stuck it in the microwave. It was fucking delicious. Like, I don't know, it was just like cheese and eggs. Although the one thing that was confusing, which I feel weird saying this out loud because I had this thought myself and didn't vocalize this until right now. Hence I have a podcast, or you can call it a therapy session. I was like, so have these eggs been, because like it wasn't refrigerated. It was like sitting in there with like the muffins and stuff. I was like, has this burrito been sitting in this little like plastic case since this morning? I think the answer was yes. And she put it in the microwave for like 4 minutes. I was like, I don't I don't think it needs 4 minutes, but it was great. It got really hot and then everything kind of like chilled a little bit and the cheese was like really melty. So even their, leftover breakfast burrito from this morning, which if I'm not able to do this next week because I have food poisoning, you'll know why. But great margarita. So if you can try to get there before 4 o'clock so you can get the $10 burger, because that certainly would have been my move. So yes, Chris, I will talk about Bayonet, but I want to hear one of your courses first, because to your point, not only a great course, but I literally bought some merch because I was like, it's a sword. They have a sword. I want logo with a bayonet. I want a sword.
Oh, we'll get into that
on my hat.
We'll get into that. So my next course, I would want to talk about. I went out, and so my buddy Ryan and his family, the O'Mearas, own and operate a lot of courses here in Oregon. One of them being Wildwood, which we've talked in past podcasts, and we will have Ryan on and we'll chat more about the O'Meara family as well as Wildwood. But one of the courses that his cousin Henry runs and operates is actually the first one built by the family, by their grandfather, and it's called Killarney West. It's a 9-hole course out in Cornelius, Hillsboro area, just west of Portland. And man, was this course fucking cool. First time I ever experienced it. Ryan kept telling me I had to go out there, and finally I made my way out there a couple weeks ago, and short, 9-hole course, but damn, is it fun. I mean, the holes were just some of the weirdest, like, designs in amateur, architecture that I've ever experienced, but it made for one of the funnest experiences I've ever had on a course, where, like, the first hole is a really short par 4 dogleg left. So of course that doesn't really work for my game. So, but what you don't realize until you get out into the fairway, it's really like 260. I mean, really, really short. But you cannot take it over the trees. The trees are 50, 60 feet tall. They're gigantic new trees that have been there forever. And when you lay up out into the fairway, I think I hit like a 6-iron, so I was out there about 180 yards or so. And so I had, about 80 in, but I hit it too far into the fairway, where if you hit it too far left, they have these giant trees planted in the middle of the fairway, far on the left side or right side of the fairway. So I hit too far, and I was literally 20-30 yards behind these trees, right in between them. So I had to take my 6-iron out again and hit a punch shot onto the green, which is just something you normally wouldn't have to do if you hit the fairway on any course you ever play. And I just thought it was really, really cool, and overly used word again, quirky. But this is the epitome of quirky.
You mean you didn't choke down on a 3-wood and bang it off the flagstick and have the whole crowd jumping up and down at a golf course chanting, "Big Chris,
Hey,
Big Chris"?
I wasn't far enough out for that. So couldn't whip out the 3 and do a little punch at the punch.
Story again. It's like I have like triggers like that story. Or it's like if we have on another guest and you're like, let me tell you, I worked at a hot dog stand. It's like I'm gonna drive to Oregon and execute you because like I can't hear that story again.
Hey, it's my life and I tell it like it is, so you're gonna fucking keep hearing them. It's just the way it goes. Anyways, second hole, crazy hole. It's just dogleg right uphill, and then it goes back down into a valley with a green that's, sunken down into this valley. And it's just super quirky and weird. I mean, super weird, but like absolutely a blast. And the conditions that Henry has got this course to are dialed up. I would say their greens are getting to the point where they're going to rival Wildwood. And so Ryan's got to be on point because your cousin's coming for you. But it's a really fun track. I mean, you can loop it over and over again. It's the one thing I wish more people would go out and experience this course, because it really is worth the effort, even if you're coming from the Portland area like I am. It's about 20, 25 minutes, 30 in traffic sometimes, but it's an extremely fun day out on the course. And you should never feel that you shouldn't play 9 holes twice. You know, it's not boring. That's, I think, the big stigmatism when it comes to, you know, 9-hole courses, is the people that play a lot want to play a full 18. They want the full regulation. They want all of this. You can have it at a 9-hole course. We've talked about it in the past. Play 2 sets of tees. That solves it right there. You're basically playing 2 different courses by just playing 2 different tees. Or play the same tees over again, and you get a second go at it, and you get to hit shots that you might not have hit the first time around, and better your score. So, you know, don't ever deter yourself from going out and playing 9, because it's really, you know, really fun, especially when you come across a place like Killarney West. The rates, to be honest, the rates to condition might be the best in Portland. So before COVID, it was
a big statement, dude.
It's $10 to play 9 holes walking before COVID. Henry was scared to raise the rate, and he raised it up to $17. Let me rephrase that again. $17 to play a really good, very high quality 9-hole course. It is. And they only charge $5 to ride. So, I mean, if you do want to ride in a cart, I mean, you're out the door for $22 for 9 holes if you want to ride. I mean, and he charges you the same rate if you play full 18. So, the cart rate doesn't change. And I thought that was just really, really good. And the rate to the conditions of the green are impeccable. I mean, the conditions of the greens are just so good. They're running probably close to an 8.5, so they're not overly fast, but they're absolutely not slow, and they run true. So I can't say anything more about, you know, the rate to conditions, and then also like the condition of the greens, because it's the best bang for the buck you're going to find in probably any city you go to. I mean, it's a really, really good rate.
So,
and then
two questions.
Yes.
So, one, people want to know, did you ride? I appreciate you doing scouting, but I'm also thinking that you might have ridden a 9-hole course.
I might have.
Yeah. I wish this was in fact a video medium, because Chris just he got his hand caught in the cookie jar right now.
I might have, but I was also, my wife. It was a Sunday, and she was kind of just relaxing, and I was like, I'm gonna sneak out and play some. So I was trying to get through it as fast as possible. Hey, I walked a full 18 today.
Okay.
At a par 3 course, but I walked full 18. Okay. So
we should give the people credit. Or we should give them context. So what I brought up with Chris, circling back when we went to Bandon. The way that I'll put it in a PC way, because I'm looking you in the face, is Chris walked 36 holes at Bandon. It wasn't the easiest experience for him. Is that fair, Chris?
Hell yeah, I was fucking tired of shit.
Okay, right. I'm just trying to not drive by shoot you. Well,
no, I'm
not
okay
to drive by shoot you. I'm just trying not to shoot you right now.
We're all about public golf. I am not a walker. Yeah. I'm gonna 100% admit it. Like, if it's a semi-hilly course, there's no fucking way. I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna walk Presidio. You guys love walking Presidio. Not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. So, no, but that's helpful, because I think, like, if you go back to episode 3, I bigs all the time. You're like, yeah, MuniciPals love to walk. It's like, well, one of us does. Two of us, including Jack.
And you know what? I'm not going to say no to playing a course because they're walking only. That's one thing that's a difference between me and people that normally ride. A lot of people that normally ride will refuse to play Chambers Bay, Bandon Dunes, or even like Sweetens, because they don't have carts.
Well, Sweetens does have carts.
Sweet. Okay, my fault. I haven't been out to Sweetens yet. So
well, the cool thing about Sweetens, we talk about that too much on this pod, is like they actually make it pretty expensive so that people are encouraged to walk. But the nice thing is though, if you play Sweetens and you have an all day pass, you're just going to be playing like 150 holes, which is, but the one thing, this will sort of set up, I've talked to Chris about, we're going to do Bandit next year. Because I was like, yo, dude, I'm not trying to get in your life or your exercise routine, but I was like, we got to make it where we can do like abandoned trail sheep and you don't fucking implode on me. Because like when we walk 36 and the next morning we have a 9-10 tee time at trails, your ass needs to be on that tee with me. Because I'm not going to be like, oh, Chris couldn't. No. You can get a caddy. I don't give a shit. But when we're playing 36 holes abandoned, your ass needs to be there and no excuse. What was it like after we finished? You're like, God, my hips are like electric. I'm like, what the fuck?
My hips were locking. Like my hips were literally like locking up. Like I couldn't fucking rotate my hips at all. Like it was rough.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel that until we got back to the hotel. So anyways, to get back to it, pace of play out there, to be honest, was a little slow. I had, it's a 9-hole course, so I'm going to give it its due. One thing anybody knows about some 9-hole courses, especially some that are a little bit more embedded in, smaller communities, you get a lot of people out there that are playing that might not necessarily play by the rules. So I was playing as a single, and they had put a twosome out in front of me, and I just showed up with no tee time. So I just went out there, and they just threw me out on the course. So, I'll put that in there as well. So I did it old school and just showed up as a single and got out there. And so the pace of play was a little slow because the twosome in front of me, the lady dropped, I'm not shitting you, at least 3 balls per tee shot. So she was hitting at least 3 tee shots a hole. At minimum. I watched her do it 5 on one hole. And it was she just would hit a ball until one went well, and then she'd go grab all the other ones. So it was that, for anybody that plays golf a lot, that is frustrating as shit. Because like if someone's on your ass and literally waiting within like 10 yards of you in their cart while you're teeing off, and you see them but continually drop balls and continually hit tee shot after tee shot, that's just disrespectful in my mind. Like you just need to realize the situation that you're in and at least let me play through. Or there just was no inkling of them letting me do that, and that kind of frustrated me. But I think any other time you go out there, if you don't get somebody like that, I think pace of play would be just fine out there. Amenities, there really isn't much when it comes to that. It's your basic 9-hole course. You come out, you play, and that's about it. They sell some beers and your typical soda, water, Gatorades, all that kind of stuff behind the counter. They've got hot dogs and then snacks, and that's about it. They're not a full service golf shop. They carry some golf balls, some tees, your basic amenities to play golf, they carry. And then Killarney's got great, merch and stuff out there as well for you. But other than that, the amenity, you're not going to stick around and have lunch afterwards. That's definitely the vibe out there. So, Killarney was great. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I went out there, met up with Henry. And if you ever go out there, say hello to Henry. Say hello to the O'Meara family. They are wonderful people. Absolutely wonderful. But I really want to hear your experience at Bayonet.
Yes, sir. So I got to give a huge shout out to my, now friend. I couldn't say he was a friend before because I didn't know him, Brian Lancaster. So the funny thing is, so I'm a recruiter by trade, and Brian, I just got connected through my network to Brian, and we were talking, and he was like, "Hey, I saw that on your LinkedIn picture you have it's a picture of Tiger, kind of 3 panels of his swing at the top. He was like, I assume you're a golfer. I'm like, yeah, dude. So he was like, we should go play. He's like, I'm a member at Bayonet and Black Horse, and we should go. So we had this tee time on the books I actually had to move it once because my parents were in town, but finally came around, and we had an awesome day. So as it turns out, I was very cautious simply because it was Brian's tee time. He invited me out. I didn't know who we were playing with or if we were playing with anybody. And then as it worked out, our producer Jack and our buddy Marcus, they ended up coming down too. They were going to play in the group ahead of us actually, and then play with me at PG. And then as it turns out, just by the mega day, it turns out that the 4 of us, me, Brian, Jack, and Marcus, played at both Bayonet and at PG. So it turned into just an amazing day. So first of all, shout out to Brian for making the tee time. And I think hopefully we'll also give some helpful context about rate, because Brian is a member. I think the first thing we should call it is the membership. For me, I wouldn't do this, very honestly, because of where I live. But you could honestly argue that if you go play Bayonet 4 times a year, it's worth it. Because Brian told me that it's $300 to, air quotes, join Bayonet and Black Horse, which for context, Bayonet, if you just roll up and you just say, hey, I want to play, it's going to cost you $170. Where if you're a member, I think the walking rate was like 62. I think I rode with Brian, I think it was like 84. So the point is, it pays for itself in 3 times. Plus they give you this very swaggy pullover. They give you a towel. So just for people know, obviously I think I would still consider that a mega public course, but if you want to, air quotes, join, like I'm a member at Presidio, so I get preferential time on tee times. It's very much in that vibe.
But I have to stop you there. Talking about the swag that you get for being a member, that's one thing I want to get into with you, because we were talking before the pod came out. Their logo between Bayonet and Black Horse, so they've got 2 different logos because for 2 different courses that are on the same property. Bayonet and Black Horse might have some of the coolest, like, old school golf logos. I would say.
I knew what a bayonet was, but it's a fucking sword. Literally I walked in the pro shop and I was like, I have to buy something. Like, I'm not a violent person. In fact, I'm a little snowflake pacifist, but I was like, I wanted something with a sword on it. And yeah, I'm with you. I'll post a picture on the day this comes out of the sign for each hole, but it's legitimately a bayonet across this wooden sign on every single one. Like, he's like, this is sick.
And so for context, it's basically a bayonet, and then it says in script on top of the bayonet, and then if it's a combo logo on the bottom right, it'll say Black Horse with like a bucking horse.
Black Horse.
And it's just really clean, well done logo. And to be honest, it's better than all of the Pebble Beach logos, in my opinion.
It's fantastic. So I think that what we're trying to talk about, we talked about condition versus value. I think that at $170, I don't know that it's worth that. It's a great golf course, but I think that what we'd both agree, Chris, is, $170, it's not a Pasa, it's not a Pebble, but like $170, you're putting yourself in the top like couple percentage points of what golf course cost. And it's a great golf course, but I think, like, again, what we try to focus on here is kind of the pound for pound deals. And it doesn't feel like a deal at 170. Granted, one thing you gave me context into is I'd encourage people to go look on Golf Now, because Chris said you can oftentimes find it for like 110, 120. Totally worth it at that. Because like Poppy Hills, for example, as an NCGA member, is like 120 and worth every penny. I think this would be, I expected to play, I don't know why, but I expected to pay like 120. Totally worth that, because specific to Bayonet, I have not played Black Horse yet. I'm going to go back down with Brian and do it again. But the way he described it to me is Black Horse is open with like pretty crazy green complexes, which sounds like super my vibe, where Bayonet is a little bit tighter, which I definitely felt as my driver's kind of been all over the place. The greens are a little bit more tame, but I think what I noticed was super, super interesting green complexes absolutely placed a premium for like where you hit it. Like, for example, number 1 is this kind of long par 5, and then the pin was like, the front of the green is this little sliver and the pin was down there. So it's tough because like like if you're gonna hit it probably past the hole just because of where it is, and then you're gonna have this like slippery putt down the hill. Because I mean the greens are fantastic. The greens are fast. They're true. I don't know enough to know what it is on the stimp meter, but I would say like they were fast. Like on the first putt, like I think it was Marcus goes, get to the hole. And as it turns out, it like kept rolling and went past the hole. So I think like really interesting green complexes, very true. So I think the greens were really stood out to me. I mean, the course is in great condition, but the greens were just awesome. I also putted my ass off, but a big reason why though is because I picked the right line, and when the greens are true and you pick the right line, they go in the hole, right? It wasn't like, I bumped over this or there's that. I mean, it was definitely jarring to go from Bayonet to PG, where it's like bumpy Poe versus like this like really smooth at Bayonet. So again, I would rate Bayonet as a course. People should definitely go play. Just be shrewd with how you make that. Like, you know, if you can find a Brian Lancaster, you know, definitely go out there for 60 or 80 bucks. But again, at 110, 120 bucks, totally worth it. And I would say, shit, if you're in town and you're like, I really want that, like I really want to play there, you can justify 170. Just no, again, we're talking pound for pound. 170 just puts it in definitely kind of a higher price point, but conditions were fantastic.
So one point that I want to make too is if you go out there, they do a replay rate, and the replay rate works for the second course. So if you go out there and play 36 holes in a day, you get a half off rate for your second round. So even at 170, if you cut that in half, you know, you're under $100 for your second round. That in my mind is a very, very good price point when you get 36 of that caliber in Monterey at that rate. But I would say if you're just going out there booking it through their website and everything, that's really the vibe to go in and do. Because as Ashton's going to talk about right now, their amenities are incredible. Really good out there.
Yeah, amenities were great. I mean, full bar, food, unsurprisingly with that merch, great merch selection. I bought this really dope, like I said it looked like funfetti, this like imperial beanie that looked like funfetti. Hashtag fuck gender norms, but like it definitely was like a woman's beanie, but I think it looked awesome, so I bought it. The guy definitely like checking me out, like was kind of like, what kind of face I would be like, dude, fuck you, I think this is cool. So the amenities were great. Also, what's so fucking nice, they have a huge driving range. They have a chipping area with like real sand, and you can actually like hit a couple bunker shots, like God forbid, stuff that I'm just so not used to. So we actually got there an hour early and like took our time and warmed up, and it's all kind of close to the first tee. So I think that's a really big thing. And I will tell you, had I not hit 15 minutes worth of putts, I would have putted my first one like into the fairway. I would have like putted it off the front of the green and been pissed and made a double bogey on the first hole. So like, but again, that's like cool. It's like go and get there, get calibrated. They had coffee in the morning, like everything you could kind of possibly want is all right there. So I think that was a really, really big piece. The one thing I wanted to call out, which is I feel triggered by this because I've mentioned Cuscavel in the past. The one thing that I understand, but I find very disappointing as a golfer, is they're in the middle of tearing down. They've torn down a ton of trees. I don't know if it's around Black Horse, but certainly around Bayonet, and they're about to put up all the houses. So I wish I could have played it. I don't know when they started this project before, because like the one thing you like, for example, on number 9, I want to say, both Marcus and Jack hit like mega foul balls into right field, and like Marcus's ball ended up on like the foundation of what's going to be a home. And like, to be clear, no offense, Marcus, it was off the planet. But like, there's just a lot of times where it's like, it's like, wow, that's Pacific Ocean. And then there's like all these houses being built. So I wouldn't call it subdivision golf. I mean, it might be after it's done, but that's the one thing. Like, I just know for me at Cuscavel, when I was a kid, playing golf in the middle of like the lake and the pine tree farm. And then if we ever, it's private now and we're not members, but if we ever go play, Chris, you're going to be like, I can see why this would have been insane without all these houses. And so that's one thing to call it. Again, it's not going to ruin your day, but it's something to know where I was like a little bit disappointed. So that's the one thing. And then as far as pace, this was a bit disappointing. I don't know what they did. I mean, I think we might have been the culprits because they sort of created a new tee time for us because Jack and Marcus were at 10:10. We were at 10:20. We played together at 10:30. They let out a twosome, and then a single, and then us. And then it was just really weird. I don't know why they didn't play together. But then on the back nine, we caught just these guys who were playing from the black tees who actually should not. Like, to be clear, Bayonet is 7,100 yards from the back tees. And these guys were not good enough. And they were also putting, like they were like putting for the FedEx Cup. Like, so that was kind of hard. The other thing too, Chris, we've talked about this, and it didn't really affect our day, but there was a bunch of juniors, or I don't know what age group, but they were having a tournament, so there was a bunch of practice rounds. So we were gonna like because the woman behind us was like a beast and was like hitting it almost on the green. We're like, yo, you can play through. And she was like, oh, I'm just having your practice round. So it's always kind of weird from a pace of play standpoint when it's like buddies playing golf and then like a bunch of people getting prepped for a tournament. Like, I really wish tournaments say, hey, all practice rounds are from 9 to 12. And then at 12, the course opens up to like everybody else. I wish they did that. But again, you can't like love that place. Brian's already texted me. He's like, hey, we got to do a 36 day down there. Can't wait to do it. But I think the one thing again is like, especially if you're coming from the Bay Area, just be shrewd about rate. And if you can pay 120 instead of 170, do that. And I think that's the only kind of comment that I would make. Or shit, if like Brian lives in San Jose, plays all his golf down there, but again, at a $300 membership, like you have to drive an hour. I asked him where he played. I said, where do you play in San Jose? He said, I don't. I drive down here. He's like, Cinnabar's okay, but everywhere else sucks or is full. So I just drive down here and I get, it's worth it immediately. So love it, and can't wait to get to Black Horse too.
That's actually a huge take actually by him, because I grew up in San Jose. So really all I grew up on was playing all the 9-hole courses that were out there. Like we've talked in the past with, Prune Ridge and Sun Garden and Blackberry Farms and all those courses, where you've got San Jose Muni, which is literally packed, 7-minute tee times back to back from the time they start till the end of the day, every fucking day. Or you can go out to Coyote Creek, which is a little bit of a drive for most people that live in San Jose. So I totally get what he's talking about. And like, that is kind of a shame in such a large community that I think San Jose is like pushing 1 million people, if not more than that. So, I mean, for them to not have any amenities golf-wise out there, it's kind of a travesty. But, that's for another podcast.
Yeah, and the last thing I wanted to say, Chris, my favorite hole, number 17, a short par 3, but just the diabolical green. So, like, we couldn't actually see it, but the pin was in the middle, and Brian was like, wait till you get up there. And it was one of those where if you flew it probably to the hole or anywhere near the hole, it basically slopes aggressively about past this ridge. I hit... Because of that, I actually clubbed down and didn't even get it to the green. So I did, but I love a course where it's like we putted, we played, you kind of noticed it, and then we walk to 18 and you look back at the green and it's like, oh wow, like the green looks totally different from the back than it does on the front. And I love that stuff from a golf course architecture standpoint, where it's like it's not just like, oh, you see the hole and that's what it is. Like the hole from the tee box versus the hole 50 yards behind the green looks absolutely different. And I can imagine also at the size of green, the front of the green you're hitting a gap wedge, the back you're probably trying to hit a 9-iron and kind of run it down. But again, if the pin's in the back and you're flying it back there, you got to be mindful. So just wanted to call out that hole because, again, really, really interesting green complexes. And any course that's got good green complexes and good greens, I want to play there all the time.
Absolutely. And I mean, Bayonet and Black Horse are both 2 courses that I could play every single time I come to Monterey. And they usually are my target 2 courses that I play just because of rate. Because if you go out and play Carmel Valley Ranch, you're looking at a 200 plus rate. Quail Lodge is 200 plus rate. everything out the Pebble Beach area, 250 plus to play most of those courses. And so you've really stuck with Del Monte, which, to be honest, if I'm going to choose, I'm not going to choose Del Monte over Bayonet and Black Horse, because I put Bayonet and Black Horse as just as good as the courses on the Pebble Beach Resort. So, you know, to be honest, I'd rather play both of them over Pebble Beach. And that's just my take. That might be, you know, a stretch take for a lot of people, because Pebble Beach is so, you know, it's got such, you know, bravado when it comes to what it is. But, like, I would take Bayonet and Black Horse any day. Yeah, I mean, you started it off right when it comes to Monterey golf. I mean, if that's the golf that you've experienced in Monterey, I think you have kind of set the bar correctly, because, I mean, with the other courses, they're all exceptional. And I can't say anything bad about any course other than Laguna Seca. We've said it in the past, Laguna Seca is a dog fucking shit track. Don't waste your money there. But anyways, every course in Monterey is pretty much fucking awesome. And I can't say really anything bad about, you know, total what courses they have out there. But, you know, there's so much golf and so many tracks that me and you still have to experience. But it's so awesome every week in it. You know, week in and week out, we're able to talk about new courses, even in our local areas, you know, and it's so amazing. So I've really enjoyed it. I know you have. It's been so much fun in this journey, and next week we'll have more courses for you guys.
Sounds great. Well, Chris, you guys have a great night, and yeah, thanks again for the support, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Later.